Welcome to the Bullvine podcast, your go-to source for inside stories, cutting-edge research, and the latest updates in the world of dairy farming. In our 146th episode, take a look at how the U.S. needs to balance borders and barns, protecting U.S. dairy farms amid immigration reforms. So please grab a glass of milk, sit back, and let's get started with this episode.
Welcome to the Bullvine podcast. I'm Douglas, and with me is Bella. Today, we're diving into a critical issue facing the U.S. dairy industry, the potential impact of mass deportations on our milk supply and the economy. As President Trump begins his second term, his proposed immigration policies could have far-reaching consequences for dairy farms across the nation. We're here to break down the numbers, explore possible solutions, and discuss the human element of this complex issue. Let's start with some eye-opening statistics. Currently, 51% of dairy farm workers are immigrants, and these workers are responsible for producing 79% of the U.S. milk supply. If we were to lose half of this workforce, it could cost the economy $16 billion. Even more shocking, if all immigrant labor were eliminated, we could see retail milk prices spike by 90.4%. But these numbers only scratch the surface. The potential economic ripple effect of mass deportations is staggering. We're looking at a possible reduction of the U.S. dairy herd by 2.1 million cows, a drop in milk production by 48.4 billion pounds, and the closure of over 7,000 farms. This could lead to a $32.1 billion hit to economic output and the loss of over 208,000 jobs across various sectors. It's important to note that the ramifications of labor shortages extend beyond simple production figures. A study found that employee turnover on dairy farms led to a 1.8% decrease in production, a 1.7% increase in calf loss, and a 1.6% increase in cow death rates. This highlights the critical role of experienced immigrant workers in maintaining both the quantity and quality of dairy production. These figures paint a grim picture of an industry already struggling with high costs and regulatory burdens. It's time to recognize that a strong agricultural sector is crucial for national stability. Now, Bella, I'd like to turn it over to you to discuss the human element of this crisis and explore some potential solutions.
Thank you, Douglas. You're absolutely right that we need to look beyond the numbers and consider the human cost of this situation. A recent ProPublica investigation revealed the harsh realities faced by immigrant workers on Midwest dairy farms. They often endure frequent injuries and lack basic safety protections. One worker shared, "I couldn't even walk straight, yet felt compelled to keep working due to financial pressures. Imagine the daily grind, where each morning brings both the promise of productivity and the looming risk of injury." These workers' plight isn't just a tale of individual struggle. It's a call to action for a reformed framework that elevates labor standards while securing necessary protections. This human cost underscores the pressing need for comprehensive reform. Balancing our labor needs while safeguarding workers' rights isn't just a compassionate policy. It's an ethical necessity that resonates through every glass of milk. The future of American dairy hinges on both economic sustainability and the equitable treatment of these devoted workers. Now, let's talk about potential solutions. The debate over immigration reform is complex and often polarized. While national security is paramount, we cannot ignore the economic realities facing our dairy industry. So, how do we strike a balance? Here are some pragmatic solutions worth considering. 1. Pathway to legal status. Provide a pathway to legal status for current undocumented workers who contribute positively to their communities. 2. Reform the H-2A visa program. Adapt this program to better fit year-round agricultural needs, particularly in dairy farming. 3. Robust guest worker programs. Create a more efficient system that allows farmers to hire seasonal and permanent workers without bureaucratic red tape. 4. Invest in automation. Encourage technological advancements that reduce reliance on manual labor while ensuring productivity. However, it's crucial to acknowledge that these solutions are not without potential drawbacks. Critics argue that providing a pathway to legal status could incentivize future illegal immigration. There are also worries that visa reform could displace American workers, and guest worker programs might lead to worker exploitation. As for automation, While it could reduce labor dependence, it might also lead to job losses. To address these concerns, any reforms should include strict eligibility requirements and background checks for pathways to legal status, robust protections for domestic labor and visa reforms, strong labor protections and employer mobility in guest worker programs, and gradual transitions coupled with worker retraining programs for automation initiatives. It's worth noting that while the debate often focuses on undocumented workers, legal pathways for immigrant dairy workers are limited. Due to the year-round nature of dairy work, the popular H-2A visa program, which many agricultural sectors rely on, is largely unavailable to dairy farmers. This leaves the industry in a precarious position, relying on a workforce that lacks explicit legal protections. Douglas, I'd like to hand it back to you to discuss how other countries are handling similar challenges and to wrap up our conversation.
Thank you, Bella, for that comprehensive overview of the human element and potential solutions. It's clear that this is a complex issue with no easy answers. Let's look at how other countries are handling similar challenges in their dairy industries. Canada, for instance, has implemented the Agri-Food Immigration Pilot, which provides a pathway to permanent residency for experienced non-seasonal agricultural workers. This program recognizes the vital role of immigrant labor in the agricultural sector and offers a more stable solution for both workers and employers. New Zealand, another major dairy producer, has addressed labor shortages through its Essential Skills Work Visa program. This allows dairy farms to recruit overseas workers for positions they can't fill locally, ensuring that the industry has access to the labor it needs to remain productive. Germany, the European Union's largest milk producer, has introduced the Skilled Immigration Act. This legislation eases the immigration process for qualified workers from non-EU countries, potentially benefiting the dairy sector by providing access to a broader pool of skilled labor. These international approaches offer valuable lessons and potential models as we consider reforms to our own immigration policies. As we wrap up, let's recap the key issues and takeaways from our discussion. 1. Immigrant workers comprise 51% of the dairy workforce, producing 79% of the nation's milk. 2. Mass deportations could lead to a $32.1 billion economic hit and over 200,000 job losses. 3. Without reform, we face potential dairy farm closures and skyrocketing milk prices. 4. There's a significant human cost to the current system, with many immigrant workers facing unsafe conditions and exploitation. 5. Potential solutions include pathways to legal status, visa reform, guest worker programs, and increased automation, but each comes with its own set of challenges. 6. Other countries offer models for addressing similar issues in their dairy industries. The U.S. dairy industry is at a pivotal moment where immigration policy and economic challenges intersect. The solutions we've explored offer a starting point for addressing this complex issue, but implementing them will require political will and public support. As consumers, industry stakeholders, and citizens, we all have a role to play. We encourage our listeners to 1. Stay informed about immigration policies and their potential impact on the dairy industry. 2. Engage with local and national representatives to advocate for balanced reform. 3. Support initiatives that promote fair labor practices and sustainable dairy farming. 4. Consider the human cost behind every gallon of milk and dairy product you consume. The future of American dairy depends on our ability to reconcile national security concerns with the industry's labor needs. It's time for meaningful action to secure our borders, support our farmers, and ensure a stable food supply for generations to come. The choice is clear. We can either exploit this crisis for political advantage or unite to cultivate solutions that fortify America's dairy industry's resilience and security. Which side of history will you be on?
That's all for today's episode of the Bullvine podcast. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Bullvine podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's insightful discussion. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review. Catch you next time on the Bullvine podcast, where bovine expertise and community come together.